in general, you always say like China, very positive things about China. And then there are people calling you, maybe saying you're a CCP paying you to do this. You're a CCP agent to talk good things about China. So let me ask you, why you talk positive about China so much in your live streams?
Because I think that uplifting 800 million people out of extreme poverty is an incredibly impressive feat. Being able to develop this country in the aftermath of colonial extraction, World War II, infighting, and civil war, and to become a competitive force that is slated to overtake America as in a multipolar world is very impressive. And I think we should learn from that in the United States of America. We should look to that and learn some lessons from that. And that's the reason why I always try to use China as an alternative, as an example, because I also want high-speed rail in America. I want high-speed rail in America. I want Americans to not have to fear about where their next meal is coming from, or potentially taking on medical bankruptcy, which is an insane concept to begin with and doesn't even exist in other OECD nations anyway. What I'm saying is I want Americans to wake up, and I think China is a decent example to showcase.
Hasan Piker, also known as HasanAbi, is a prominent Twitch streamer offering political commentary and media analysis. As a content creator, influencer, and political commentator, he speaks to young Americans like mainstream media could only dream of. His unique take on current affairs has helped him amass a combined 4.5 million followers on Twitch and YouTube. A recurrent topic of conversation on his platforms is China. From analyzing China's governance and development to the international bloggers' travel boom the country is experiencing, he shares dimensions of the greater China story that Western audiences rarely get to hear about.
How does this one fold?
Yeah, they're on a different planet out here, brother.
Yo, it's got that classic Huawei vision.
Yeah, it's got a little filter on there.
We're like cavemen discovering fire for the first time.
Chinese
that's what
filter,
it feels
yeah.
like to be in China after being in America for so long.
No problem, chat.
Oh, no way!
It's a small one.
And it's the first version of
It's
it.
the first. Wait,
Really?
Is that a Bible?
No, that's a little red book.
it is basically.
The little red book?
The little red book. It's the red Bible is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is incredible.
Hi, Hasan Piker. Such a surprise to see you in Beijing. Wow.
It was inevitable. It was bound to happen.
I know Beijing is your first stop in your whole travel plan in China. It's too early to ask, I know, but I'm just wondering what's your expectations for your China trip, and it's probably just been 2 days for you to arrive China. How's your experience so far?
It's been amazing. I haven't slept at all, but you know, I'm just carrying myself because I'm so excited. So it's been a remarkable experience thus far. But I was always very excited to come to China, so this has been a dream come true for me.
What do you want to experience the most, or what do you want to try the most?
The food, I want to see all the big tier 1 cities, but most importantly, I am super stoked that I'm going to get on a high-speed train tomorrow to go to Shanghai. So that's what I'm mostly looking forward to. That's what I've been most excited about.
Why? Why are you looking forward to visit China?
Well, part of it is because I talk about China quite a bit as far as like lessons to learn and what America could adopt and emulate, and seeing it in real time I think is a lot different. I also wanted to show my audience and the Western world in general that there are a lot of rumors about China. There's a lot of misunderstandings and also just outright lies, and that it's just another normal country just like every other country is. And I know that, but one, experiencing it for myself is good, and seeing it for myself is good, and then two, showing it to other people as well, I think will be a good opportunity.
As a journalist who travel to different countries and talk to local people, I noticed there's a huge gap. Like, there are a lot of misconceptions from the West in general about Chinese people. I think I really appreciate your effort trying to help a lot of people to see, hey, they're also just normal people. There are things going on that the news are not reporting. But I'm just wondering, in general, from your observation, what are the common misconceptions that people in the United States have about China?
Where do I begin? I mean, if we're going to talk about the government, there is a tremendous amount of misinformation. Oftentimes, one of the things that I think our press does to our adversaries, which is really strange, especially when we consider China being such a significant trade partner to America. 30% of manufacturing is coming from here. Nonetheless, the State Department officially designates it as like a competitor or foreign adversary. We will look to things that every other country does, our allies do, for example, and we will assume that it's like somehow sinister or totally different or totally exaggerated when it's coming out of China. One example I always think about is like there was a new museum, I think it might have been the Revolutionary Museum that was launched in China. And there was a New York Times article. It was like, China greatly whitewashes its own history in its museum. And it's like, first of all, every museum is going to show the best parts of that about their history. It's totally normal. We do that in America as well. So there's that. And then there's just like outright misinformation. And I think for a lot of people, or for a lot of the press in general, they're just not very intellectually curious about what is actually going on here. I see this in my own experience. Like there are a lot of analysts I talk to, very smart people, very well-educated people. But when it comes down to it, when they want to analyze China, they have this horse blinder on where they just think, why are they doing these sorts of things? Oh, China's about to collapse any day now. And one of the best examples I love to use is the ghost cities. Development style here is very different than places like America or liberal capitalist nations. And they build housing with a long-term plan in mind. And it's been incredibly successful. But at the time when the housing units were being constructed, Western analysts looked at that and said, oh, this is not for people to live in. They're just doing it because this is a speculative bubble and it's going to collapse at any moment. And now you look at those ghost cities in 10 years in the future, from when those articles used to come out from the New York Times and many other places, these are cities with tens of millions, sometimes 20 million people living in them. I never want to have that kind of, I never want to stunt my own analysis in that way. And I feel like a lot of people do that partially because they want to cope and partially because it's just all they've known and they've just never really been interested in understanding that there are different ways of governance out there beyond what we see in the Western world.
So this is your first time in China. I watched some of your videos analyzing China, and I would say most of your videos talking about China are pretty good. As someone who had never been to China before, how did you manage to understand what's really going on in China?
I grew up in Turkey, so I think I have a different attitude about different modes of governance in general. And I also grew up in that region, so I have an understanding of like what America likes to do to its adversaries or countries that it declares enemies of the state. And therefore, I was already skeptical about State Department narratives in general. I don't know, I just did some reading. and I think that the Chinese development especially has been so undeniable that as long as you're even a little bit interested and don't just read Foreign Policy magazine analysts, you can very quickly realize that no, like this is not the backward state that people have presented as. And I think more and more people are also coming to that conclusion as well, because in the age of the internet, especially with like how accessible China is, it's fairly difficult for people in the West to maintain this position that this is a scary country, almost like a hermit kingdom, right? And that's just not the case. There's a lot of businessmen that come in and out of this country. Mm-hmm. Surely there are cultural differences. There's differences of governance, but ultimately it's just like it's a fully developed nation state that is constantly in touch with the rest of the world, and maybe even in some ways, in more meaningful ways than the American government is in touch with the rest of the world.
I think I wanted to talk more like your career, because I think your career is very unique because you live stream on Twitch, a gaming platform, but talking about politics, and you gained millions of followers, and from the young generations in the United States. Actually, at least from my experience, people who told me they are your fans, they're not just from the United States, they're from like everywhere. So, I mean, what motivated you to talk politics on Twitch and live streaming hours every day is a really exhausting job. So,
yeah, it's not the best medium for sure. I played video games, and I was already at the Young Turks, another news network, and I wanted to get better off the cuff, because at the time when I was at the Young Turks, I would write all my scripts. And I just basically thought, I already play video games. This is an environment and an audience that is very diverse in their opinions, but unfortunately, all of the commentary side of it was very right-wing, like incredibly right-wing. And I thought that the gaming space deserved better political voices, and I was already invested in it. So I just strapped on a camera to my PlayStation while I was playing Fortnite and just started talking about politics with a bunch of my other friends who were also journalists and activists themselves, talking about the exact same issues that I'm talking about today. And slowly but surely it evolved from there. But that was my starting point.
I see you're often, I mean, people from different groups attack you, put like different labels on you, attacking you. I think on our way here, I was seeing someone on Twitter calling you a liberal, and someone call you a spy. Someone call you, people even from the leftists, socialists also criticize you. So I mean, how do you identify yourself? What would you prefer to call yourself? And how do you see this attack from different groups?
Well, I say I'm a leftist because I think looking at the material conditions and lack of class consciousness in America, I feel like leftist is the broad categorization, because a lot of people who might have socialist tendencies don't even realize it, because like the mass political movement in the country is liberalism. So most people self-identify as liberals, even if they do actually think, if you ask them directly, like, do you think you should have more autonomy in your workplace? They would say, yeah, of course, I like that. Do you think that the government should create a base level of material equality for all workers unconditionally? They say, yeah, I love that. That sounds like a great idea. So that ranges everywhere from, even in a country like America, with the capitalist social democracy, all the way to Marxist Leninism. And so I just say leftist. But it's not a secret. I'm a socialist. And as far as people on the right attacking me, that's a given. Liberals sometimes criticizing me, that's also a given. In most circumstances, they refuse to identify the same exact problems, and they think I'm being antagonistic to the left flank position in the country, which is the Liberal Democratic Party. And as far as the broader leftist movement goes, which is fairly tiny in the United States of America, that's also a given. Leftists always fight with one another. Socialists have historically always identified marginal delineations or ideological differences and have made that a massively consequential problem, even at moments when we have no power whatsoever.
Have those labels, attacks ever bother you? Because like from my experiences, when I decided to go on social networks and talk about like what I saw in China, and I saw huge amount of attacks and racist comments and maybe from everyone. So it bothered me for a really long time, until one day I realized what I want to do is tell the stories I saw, and I shouldn't be. You won't shut me up. So I mean, I went through this transition of like mental struggles. But you are much more influential. Like, but I would consider you're a really influential influencer. You see like even bigger amount of attacks from everyone. So have you ever been through those same mental struggles?
Yeah, for sure. I think in the beginning, I always couldn't understand it. I was confused. Like, people would be like, "Oh, you're this or you're that," when it was very clear that I didn't believe the things that people were saying. But at this stage in my career, I understand that it just comes with the territory. A lot of people would rather attack the false characterization of someone rather than the actual argument that they're presenting, in an effort to make it much easier to strawman someone. It is what it is. I think truth usually does end up prevailing in the long run. So I just stay the course. I'm a very stubborn person. And I think that is my secret sauce, if you will, where I just continuously hammer on the same issues that I care about. And eventually people will find their way to arriving at those conclusions. And I've seen that throughout my career, whether it be on Israel-Palestine or even whether it be on liberals in America getting very frustrated with their lack of options within the Democratic Party, experiencing failure after failure. They inevitably come to the same conclusions that I've been yelling about for quite a while. So you just got to wait it out. Because at the end of the day, if you are true to yourself, true to your values, you can sleep comfortably at night, and also people will more often than not come to the same conclusions, no matter how long it takes.
You just mentioned many Americans are feeling maybe hopeless, seeing less of options. So what are the struggles that some like young generations in the United States are experiencing? I think many people in China would want to understand.
Affordability, lack of hope in general. Everything is very costly. Wages are relatively stagnant. There's no good jobs. Everything is so expensive. You go to college and you take on $100,000, sometimes $150,000 in student loan debts because college is not free, which is ridiculous. And then you have healthcare on the other side, God forbid. You take on $150,000 in debt to go to college. You can't get a job that is applicable to your degree. So you just take whatever job you can because now you have to pay those student loan debts. And then if you lose that job, you lose your healthcare. So there are very real fears on that front. And then also housing is incredibly costly in the country. Half of your wages are automatically going to your rent. And people just don't think, especially young people, don't believe that they will ever retire, and certainly not retire at a reasonable age. And they will never be able to own a home. So the notion of the American dream is completely lost. So a lot of people feel entirely hopeless.
Entirely hopeless.
Yes.
That's a pretty strong.
Oh, for sure. I think young people, like people my generation and younger, if you're under the age of 35, these are the pressures that you feel on a daily basis. There are very few people who are like, nah, everything is actually really great. I know so many people that are working in careers that previously would have been thought as like high-profile professional careers, highly specified jobs with a lot of training and a lot of experience. And a decade in, they feel stagnant. These are supposed to be like high-earning positions, and yet they have so much discontent, and they feel like things are too expensive.
Do you think they can make a change with the current circumstances with the U.S. government or policies?
I always have to assume that change is possible, or rather inevitable. Otherwise, everything I'm doing is for naught. So there is always an opportunity to make change. It's just, you just have to keep on pushing. You have to continue the struggle. And especially in a place like America, where there is no labor militancy even. There's not a lot of organizing, at least even at this point. And it's been completely destroyed. Those networks have been eradicated in this country by force, or capital is one. It's very difficult, but we still keep going.
What do you see the China-US relations right now? And do you think we will eventually at a war? And how can we make people from those two countries understand each other better?
Dialogue is good. And I think the more Americans realize that their conditions are not as great and that their leaders are lying to them about how it's currently the greatest country on the planet. I mean, it is the wealthiest country on the planet, and yet there is nothing to show for it for the average everyday working class person. And the more they recognize that, and the more they look to other countries and communicate with the people from other countries directly without any sort of media filtering, the more they realize that like everyone is the same. They want a roof over their head, they want a hot meal, they want clothes to put on their back, they want a better future for their children, they want upward social mobility, they just want an easy life. And they want a meaningful place on this planet. They want a good job. And that's the same whether you live in China or you live in the United States of America. And we have a lot more similarities and a lot more closeness with one another than we have differences. So dialogue, I think, is one of the best ways to do it. But like I said, as conditions worsen in America and people look to other countries, even in China, and they realize that maybe they weren't right about the way they perceive, everyday Chinese existence, the more they will think that they were lied to, hopefully yearn for something more from their own governments.
I saw China has been one of the very frequent topics in your videos, in your live streams. Like you analyze the governance of China, China's development, but in general, you always say like China, very positive things about China. Mm-hmm. And then there are people calling you, maybe saying you're a CCP paying you to do this. You're a CCP agent to talk good things about China. So let me ask you, why you talk positive about China so much in your live streams?
Because I think that uplifting 800 million people out of extreme poverty is an incredibly impressive feat. Being able to develop this country in the aftermath of colonial extraction, World War II, infighting, and civil war, and to become a competitive force that is slated to overtake America as in a multipolar world is very impressive. And I think we should learn from that. In the United States of America. We should look to that and learn some lessons from that so that we can at least try and incorporate some of those lessons. And that's the reason why I always try to use China as an alternative, as an example, because I also want high-speed rail in America. I want high-speed rail in America. I want Americans to not have to fear about where their next meal is coming from, or potentially taking on medical bankruptcy, which is an insane concept to begin with and doesn't even exist in other OECD nations anyway. What I'm saying is I want Americans to wake up. And I think China is a decent example to showcase. Even though there is a tremendous amount of propaganda, ultimately, the results are there. And it's very difficult to argue against said results.
So the CCP didn't pay you to say all these things?
No, but it doesn't matter. I mean, people will say it regardless.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, I'm pretty straightforward. Like, I criticize the Chinese government as well, just like I criticize the American government when it's like worthy of criticism. It's just that I think we have to be honest. And the problem is a lot of people would rather be dishonest and heighten negative aspects of foreign countries, while simultaneously totally understanding why certain things happen in their country. So it is what it is. But they're just not used to someone being like, no, I don't think this is as consequential as you think it is. They just immediately assume like it's very black and white. There's no nuance. There's no nuanced thinking. If you don't automatically present China as a foreign adversary, they go, oh, that's crazy. I've never heard that before. But instead of being like, a little bit curious about why I'm saying that, they automatically just shut it off.
Today is your third day in Beijing?
Second
day in Beijing.
Yeah.
The first thing you did was go to the flag raising ceremony in Tiananmen Square. How was your feeling?
It was interesting. I mean, it's not for me personally. I'm not a very patriotic person in general. But what I found fascinating is that people from all around this massive country were traveling, sometimes for an entire day. I talked to an elderly woman there who said that she traveled for a whole day to come to the flag raising ceremony, something that happens every day in Tiananmen Square, and yet it was packed. And I find that fascinating, and I think it's because, especially for older Chinese people, I think they just have a lot of pride because, you know, they have seen this country dramatically change over the past couple of decades. And that gives them a sense of pride. And I wish we had something to be more proud about as well in the United States of America, rather than like the fake pride that people try to create around endless militarism.
I totally agree with what you said, especially for the older generations.
Yeah.
Because I traveled to many rural regions in China to do stories about like the poverty alleviation, how they changed the villages. And I found the most patriotic Chinese people are in those regions, not necessarily in big cities. The people who are already pretty rich, people who already pretty you already have everything, but they always complain about many things. But if you go to say Yunnan, Guizhou, Sichuan, Tibet, all those southwest China who used to be so poor, everyone I talk to, they are so patriotic. They wear the CPC badge voluntarily just because they feel like happy. I think just like you said, when you ask them like why you love the party so much, or why you feel so proud, so emotional, they say, well, I had no home in the back in the days, or one person from an ethnic minority living in Yunnan, this auntie said, I used to run from wars, run from China to Myanmar back to China. I had no nationality. I was hiding in caves. But now I have a nationality as a Chinese living here. So like, of course, telling us like young people, don't complain about anything because we used to have nothing. So exactly like you said, those people at the Tiananmen Square watching the flag raising ceremony, I guess, just like you described, they saw the most dramatic changes in their life. So they're emotional. I was very emotional every time I go to the flag raising ceremony.
Yeah.
So
Like I said, it was an interesting experience for me. It's interesting to see that because that's not something that you can force people to do. You know what I mean? It's virtually impossible for I think a lot of Americans to comprehend. And I'm sure there are plenty of Americans who feel a sense of patriotism when they see, F-35s flying over a football field before a game. But like I said, what that represents is not a material improvement in their lives. Whereas I feel like for the average Chinese person, especially from an older generation, they have seen that material improvement in their lives, a dramatic improvement in their lives. So they have this sense of pride, which I found interesting to observe right there in person.
what's your travel plan in China? Besides the cities you're visiting, do you have anything that you want to do on your travel list?
Yeah, high-speed rail. But aside from that, I want to see these major cities. I want to see all of these cities that are, they're all over TikTok, especially nowadays. Like I think the younger generation in America is like a lot more open-minded to coming to China and seeing it for themselves. But I see the current status of China around the world as like maybe Japan in the 90s, where it was at its peak. Right, it was actually lapping America in technological developments, and I wanted to see it for myself before it's established as the norm, pretty much.
And what's your goal for this long-awaited China trip?
It's basically to experience it for myself and to show that there are normal people here that are living their lives just like Americans are. And they have fun, they like to drink, they like to party. And that we're not all that different from one another. And it's not this like scary dystopian country in the way that like a lot of Americans think.
Are you gonna live stream every day when you're in China?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I have been already.
Outdoor? Indoor and outdoor?
Indoor and outdoors, yeah. So I do my regular American political commentary, and then I go and experience something in the morning, usually around that time frame. Like tomorrow, we're going to be going to the Forbidden
City.
Yeah, we're going to the Forbidden City, so that's going to be cool.
Wow. Okay. Oh, it's gonna be packed, by the way.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of people in China.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people everywhere.
If you think the people that you saw at the Tiananmen Square for the flag raising ceremony yesterday was a lot,
Oh, it's going to be.
come back during the summer, June, July. I was there with a friend who is also visiting China. We went there in the summertime. We went there at 3 a.m. It was packed, way packed than like what you saw because it's warmer.
Yeah.
And people are napping, sleeping on the ground,
Yeah.
waiting for and when they allow people to go to the flagpole, everyone was sprinting.
Oh yeah. Oh, people were sprinting in the morning.
Bro,
Yeah,
really?
and it was like 30 degrees out. And people were just running.
Yeah.
Like preschoolers and elderly people were just booking it as soon as they opened the square. And then apparently people were like sleeping the night prior as well.
Yeah.
Just to get like front placement, which is wild. Yeah.
You have to get used to like there's no personal space in public when you're in China.
Oh no, for sure. No, I've gotten used to that, definitely.
Okay.
Like Chinese people are very straightforward, and they will get up in your personal space.
Now many people realize people are very straightforward.
Yeah.
Yes, like my parents or grandparents, i.e., they will tell you not only because they are your kid, they will tell you like your friend, oh, you got fat.
Yeah.
You got fat. Or like a foreign friend visiting. So, oh, you wear such a big size clothes.
Yeah.
So all these things so straightforward, but there's no bad intention at all.
I'll tell you a story. Right before we did this interview, I went to this park, and at the park they had the dating resumes on the ground, and it was fascinating. It's a bunch of old people. They bring their resumes of their daughters and their granddaughters, and they put it on the ground. And then a bunch of old people, they're like, "Oh, I have a son, I have a daughter." They talk to one another, and they try to set up these like relationships. They try to arrange them. And we went there to check it out, and an old man walked up to me. And I was there, and I had a translator, and the old man asked me, like, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "America." And he turned around and said, "Why don't you find an American girl then?"
Oh, really?
Yeah, "What are you doing here?" And he walked away. And I was like, damn.
I thought, they're like, oh, you're American? Okay, there's my daughter's resume.
No,
They will
no. He
bring
was like, he's like, what are you doing here? Go find an American girl.
really? I'm very looking forward to hear more interesting stories that you're gonna have in China.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, seriously. So I will, if your time permits, I will ask you your experience in China after you finish the trip.
Okay.
Yeah, so I really hope you have a good time in China and hope you have a good journey and hope to have you more on the show to share your
course.
experience.
All right. Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.